So hello. So how do we go about adding our table of contents when we're using a book? So effectively we've already got a table of contents for the first section, but now that we've added another section, i.e. the play, how do we add that in to the table of contents, which of course needs to be complete? Well, it depends on a few things. The first thing is that we must make sure a couple of things that we've done. First thing is we've actually brought the styles from the play. That's a separate document, separate InDesign document. We've brought those styles into the introduction. So in a way, because we need those styles in order for this to operate. We also, the other thing is just look at the book panel here, and you can see how I've got the style source to be in the introduction, which is where the table of contents resides. So that's where the style source needs to be before we can make this work. So making sure all these things are there, this process then should be fairly straightforward. Okay, so you can see my table of contents here thus far. So what I need to do now is to go to my layout table of contents, and I'm just going to move that over into the middle of the screen there. So what I need to do is to add the items that I want to use in the table of contents from the play. And I know what these things are. The first thing is the dramatis personae has a heading. So I'm looking for that now. That's dramatis head, and I'm going to add that in. Before I go any further, I should also remind you that you must make sure that you have more options showing, and also because we're using the book panel, we need to include the book documents like this. You should see in brackets the name of your book document over here, so that should be working automatically. Anyway, let's go back to this dramatis head. What level is it at? Well, it's actually at the same level as header 2, so I'm going to move that back to that level. And I also need to choose the correct style that I want to display it on my contents page. And I'm going to choose my talk heading 2. Okay, now what I want to do is to go to the next thing that I need, and that is act. So I'm adding that in. And that is also at the same levels. That's at level 2. So I want to make sure that's at the same level. And I'm going to also use talk heading 2 for that style. Okay, now what I want to do is to add in my scenes. So I'm going to my scene, my first scene, because I've got two different scenes if you remember. I've got first scene where it happens immediately within that at the beginning of the act, and I'm going to add that in. And that should be at level 3, and I want a different style for this. I'm going to go for talk body text. So it's a smaller style, and that's already done there. And then what I'm now going to do is to add the other style called scene, which is this one. Add that in. Now this should be at the same level. You'll notice that it automatically ups the level each time, but you want to make sure you're using the same level and you're also using the same style, which is called talk body text, like this. So this should all work. There's just a couple of other things I need to do before I complete this. If I look at these styles here that I've already done, you'll notice that I'm using a page number character. So I'm using a character style so that my page numbers don't come out at the same size as the style in which they sit. So because obviously header 2 is slightly larger, different color and so on to header 1, then those page numbers without applying a character style will be different. So I want to make sure that they're all the same, so that's why I'm using this style here. So I'm going back to my dramatis head then, and I'm going to choose page numbers talk, which is the one that I created, for both the page numbers and the little dots that go between. Let's just run through that for each of these, making sure that these 3 new things that I've put in are going to have those styles in them like that. So I've done that for those, and I want to do it for that scene as well, and also the dots between. I think I've done it for all of those, just to make sure. Yes, I've done it for all those. Now before I hit the OK button, however, I want to save this style, so I'm saving it over the top of the original one like so. and now hit OK, and that should work. Okay, so there we have it. There is our new table of contents. And there's just one thing I need to explain to you. You'll notice that I have now got the name of the play as well, and I didn't seem to do anything about that when I used the table of contents settings just now. The reason for that is that I'm using the same style, i.e. header 1 in my paragraph styles. I'm using that same style for the actual name of the play when we get to the beginning of the play. So if I go to the beginning of the play, you'll see what I mean. So here's where the play begins, before the dramatis personae. But notice that I'm using a fancy bit of stuff here for that beginning of the play. I've actually used the same thing that I had in my title page, so it's a sort of echo of that. Now that means that I can't use that in the dynamic way that the table of contents is built. I can't use a style here because it's multiple bits of text. Each one is in a different box and so on and so forth. So I can't actually use that. So what I've done, the strategy that I've used, and this could be something that you might want to make use of, is I've actually hidden this underneath here. So I've actually got A Midsummer Night's Dream right down here in that style. So here it is in header 1 style. But what I'm doing is I'm hiding it underneath a white box. Okay, so it's hidden. And so that's the way that I'm making that work in my table of contents. And there we have the table of contents again. Okay, I hope that helps.